Seth's life is one of isolation. No family, no friends. He works for the animal control department where his closest bond is with the animals he handles. His routine is simple: work, home, repeat. Social interactions? Non-existent. His personal life is a blank canvas and he likes it that way. But everything changes one day on his bus ride home. On that bus, he notices a girl. She immediately grabs his attention. Without a second thought, Seth approaches her saying, "Hello." But there's a catch. The girl doesn't recognize him. He tries to break the awkwardness by calling her Holly, claiming they went to high school together. However, Holly's response is a blank stare. She doesn't remember him at all. Curious and undeterred, Seth continues the conversation. Holly, carrying a diary, reveals she's an avid journal writer. Every day she writes down her thoughts, reflections, and experiences. Seth finds something intriguing about this connection and feels drawn to her. He nervously asks if she'd like to grab a coffee with him, but Holly, clearly uninterested, quickly shuts him down. She's already in a relationship and works as a waitress. Before Seth can say more, Holly gets off the bus, leaving him disappointed and heartbroken. Unable to shake the image of her from his mind, Seth takes to social media, hoping to find more about Holly. After some time spent searching, he tracks her down. The next day at work, Seth confides in his coworker Nate, the security guard. Looking for guidance, Seth asks Nate how to impress a girl. Nate's answer? Confidence. Girls love confident guys. While still mulling over his next move, Seth gets an unexpected call to the animal control office. Lexi, a sick shepherd dog that Seth had grown fond of, is on the table. The department, facing high medical costs, has decided to put her down. Seth feels a heavy weight in his chest as he watches the vet prepare to administer the lethal injection. The doctor offers Seth a chance to take Lexi home instead of letting her die. But Seth knows he isn't in the right place in life to care for her. With a sad nod, Seth watches the doctor carry out the procedure. Later, he burns the dog's body, a final act of closure that leaves him emotionally drained. Later that day, Seth discovers something unusual at the animal control facility: a hidden basement beneath the animal cages. This unexpected finding piques his curiosity, but he quickly pushes it aside, turning his focus back to Holly. He becomes fixated on her, researching her life and tracking her down at the restaurant where she works. His obsession grows as he studies her photos and writes down every little detail in a notebook. Determined to make her remember him, Seth shows up at Holly's restaurant one day during her shift, but when he greets her, she doesn't recognize him. Again, he's dismissed. Undeterred, Seth asks her out to a concert. Holly, now visibly frustrated, storms off, leaving him standing in the parking lot, crushed. That night, Holly walks home, her mind uneasy. She starts to feel like she's being followed, and her suspicions are confirmed when she notices Seth trailing behind her from the shadows. She rushes to her apartment, telling her friend Claire about the unsettling encounter. Meanwhile, Holly receives a strange bouquet of flowers at the restaurant the next day. She assumes it's from Eric, her boyfriend, trying to apologize for his strange, incoherent phone call the previous night. But when Holly asks him about the flowers, Eric denies sending them. That's when it clicks for Holly. The flowers are from Seth. Seth's obsession deepens. He continues following Holly, even confronting her once more, admitting that he was the one who sent the flowers. Furious, Holly explodes. But things escalate quickly when Eric shows up. Without hesitation, Eric attacks Seth, beating him badly before storming off with Holly. Despite the beating, Seth doesn't back down. He becomes fixated on Holly's personal diary, the one she writes in every day. After some effort, he manages to get his hands on it. Reading her innermost thoughts, Seth finds himself consumed by the details of her life. But what really grips him is the shocking secret Holly has been keeping. A secret he's determined to uncover. With his obsession reaching new heights, Seth decides to act on his dark desires. He begins crafting a sinister plan. The following morning, he heads back to the animal control department and constructs a steel cage in the hidden basement he discovered earlier. To complete his plan, Seth steals a paralyzing injection used to sedate animals, even testing it on himself to see how it works. That night, Seth watches Holly from the shadows again, waiting for the right moment. When he notices that her apartment is empty, he seizes the opportunity. He sneaks into her home, injects her with the paralyzing drug, and kidnaps her. Dragging her unconscious body to the animal control department, Seth hides her inside a box. When his coworker Nate briefly notices, Seth quickly diverts his attention and carries on with his twisted plan. Once inside the basement, Seth locks Holly in the steel cage he built. She wakes up hours later, her body stiff and unresponsive from the drug. As she regains her senses, she realizes with horror that she's trapped inside the cage. Her panic grows, and in a desperate attempt to escape, she claws at the bars, even ripping off one of her nails in the process. Seth's twisted actions have left Holly terrified and alone in the dark. She screams for help, but her cries are drowned out by the sounds of the caged animals around her. The basement is silent except for her desperate pleas. She's now a prisoner in the very place where Seth works, her life in his hands, and the night stretches on endlessly. The next day, Seth goes back to work, but not before making a disturbing gesture. He brings Holly some food, but it's served in a toilet seat, a sign of how far he's willing to go for her, or perhaps to control her. He insists that she remember his name, pointing out that she never bothered to learn it. After that, he leaves, disappearing for a few days. When Seth finally returns, he finds Holly unconscious, likely from dehydration or exhaustion. Panic fills him as he forces water into her mouth. Holly tries to stop him, begging him not to leave again. But Seth simply walks away, cold and detached. Left alone, Holly's mind starts to unravel, and she begins imagining her friend, Claw, appearing in the room with her. Desperation pushes her to use the toilet seat Seth left behind, as she can no longer hold out. The following day, a rat crawls near Holly, scaring her at first, but in a surge of survival instinct, she crushes it, revealing a new side of herself, one that is becoming darker and more resilient in her twisted captivity. When Seth returns, Holly confronts him. "Do you want to kill me?" she asks bluntly. Seth answers in a chillingly calm voice. "No, I don't want to kill you, but I might if it comes to that." He then confesses that he has been in love with her since the first time he laid eyes on her. In his delusional mind, he believes that what he's doing is for her safety, that he's saving her from the outside world, which he views as dangerous. After this unsettling conversation, Seth leaves once again, but not before being spotted by Nate, who becomes suspicious of Seth's behavior. When Nate questions him, Seth lies and slips away unnoticed. The next day, Seth returns with Holly's diary. He shows it to her, revealing that he knows everything about her, her secrets, her thoughts, every detail she's written down. He presses her about her friend Claw, asking if she's real. Holly denies it, but Seth insists that he overheard her talking to Claw. Confused and frightened, Seth admits that he heard two voices coming from the cage even though Holly was alone. Seth nervously asks, "Is Claw really here?" Holly, sensing an opportunity to manipulate him, denies it, but in her mind, she imagines Claw standing behind Seth. To her shock, Seth reveals the truth. Claw doesn't exist. She's merely a hallucination, a product of her unraveling mind. "You're sick," Seth tells her, laying out the details of her mental state. He even goes on to recount the painful truth about her past relationship with Eric. Holly had been engaged to Eric, but she discovered that he was cheating on her with Claw. The revelation hits Holly hard, and Seth presses further. He tells her how, after discovering Eric's betrayal, she had gone into a rage and caused a car crash, seriously injuring both herself and Claw. In her fury, Holly had taken a shard of glass and stabbed Claw in the eye, killing her on the spot. Holly tries to downplay the situation, claiming that everything in her diary is fictional. But Seth isn't fooled. He calmly responds, "I knew they were fictions too." He then reveals that he knows everything about her dark actions, including her role in several deaths. Holly had written about burning people alive and strangling others, detailing her violent impulses in the diary. Seth, with disturbing certainty, tells her that his real reason for kidnapping her wasn't just obsession. He believes he's protecting the world from her. He views himself as her savior, keeping her away from the police and from the chaos she's capable of causing. The next day, Holly's demeanor seems different. She's calmer, almost resigned, as she wipes down her body. Seth tries to bring up the murders again, but Holly distracts him, buying herself time. In a moment of desperation, she slams her head against the steel cage, causing it to bleed. It's clear that Holly is near her breaking point, especially since Seth hasn't fed her in days. Her physical and mental decline deepens. When Seth refuses to give her food, she changes her approach, pretending to be sweet and telling him that she might have fallen in love with him. Seth, now vulnerable to her manipulation, agrees to fetch food. Nate, however, notices Seth sneaking out again and becomes more suspicious. He decides to check on Holly in the basement, and when he finds her locked in the cage, Holly pleads with him to help her escape. But before Nate can do anything, Seth catches them both. In a shocking twist, Holly urges Seth to kill Nate, pointing to a nearby rock. Under her influence, Seth obeys, smashing Nate's head with the rock, killing him instantly. In a moment of calm, Holly instructs Seth on how to dispose of the body to avoid detection. He meticulously removes Nate's fingerprints, pulls out his teeth, and dismembers the body, feeding it to the dogs over 2 days. As the police begin to investigate Nate's disappearance, suspicion falls on Seth. The officers warn him that they'll be watching closely, which only increases his fear. Holly, sensing this, continues to manipulate Seth, questioning his love for her and demanding proof. She asks for a gruesome token, a piece of his finger to demonstrate his devotion. Hesitant but willing to please her, Seth cuts off his own finger. Taking advantage of Seth's weakened state, Holly grabs the knife and threatens to slit her own throat unless Seth lets her go. His delusion of love and control over her drives him to unlock the cage, thinking she finally loves him in return. But in a brutal twist, Holly turns the knife on him, slashing his throat before escaping. The next time we see Holly, she's been reunited with Eric, but the toxic cycle hasn't ended. Eric is still cheating on her. In the final haunting scene, Holly visits a house where a filthy, disfigured man is kept in a cage. The man is barely recognizable, but it's Seth, now a broken shell of his former self, missing a finger. As the screen fades to black, the chilling sense of dread lingers, leaving the audience with no clear resolution, only a haunting reminder of Holly's twisted journey. And to begin new and great stories, I recommend you click my recommendations on the right next. Drop a like and subscribe to return to the best movie event in town every Saturday, my friend.